Yo guys, Ben Ababi here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know it's been a little while and I just wanted to quickly apologise for the lack of consistent uploads. I've been travelling around and I'm now in the north of England in the Lake District, which is a beautiful part of the country for those of you who don't know. But needless to say, it is the UK summer and it has been constantly raining since we have been here. So we haven't really been up to much other than catching up with my family. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at my May results as well as a few hands that I played in London last week. I also just want to let people know that I've got a live vlog coming next week, which I'm really looking forward to. It came from a 5, 10, 25 session in the Vic and there were loads of interesting hands, including a £10,000 pot. So definitely look out for that one. Let's get on into the results for May. So as you can see, May did not go that well, at least on the surface. We did lose about $12,700 at the tables. Interestingly, we did win money on PokerStars. We did okay at 1K on GG, and we actually lost most of the money playing 2-5 with a $2 ante on the 9max games on GG. Now, I've got to say, I'm not too familiar with the strategy that we should be using, but definitely the strategy has adjusted quite a lot over the month. But there is plenty of work to be done there. I think that the main reason I really enjoy playing there is that it just brings me back to like more of a pure form of poker. There's a lot more like problem solving going on in game. Ranges are pretty wide, ranges are pretty different from player to player. So it feels nice to not really just have all the answers at everyone's fingertips and kind of take it to the wild, wild west. At least I think that, but I did get absolutely smoked, but definitely something to build on next month. So tables results aside, let's take a look at the rate back and other bonuses for the month. So I was very fortunate to win a BBJ. I won the hand, so I did get the second highest amount, which was around $17,500. I then obviously made some rate back, and that amounted to about $4,200. And I did have, maybe a bit of a spoiler for next week's video, I did make about £3,000 playing live poker as well. So all things considered, the total for the month was $12,708 profit. To be honest with you, even though I have all of those bonuses, the BBJ, other wins here and there, it still just feels bad to lose 13k or 20 buy-ins in my main game, which is online cash games. So it's kind of mixed feelings overall. Obviously, we will definitely book the financial win, but also there's plenty of work to be done in June. So on to today's hands. In the first hand today, we flopped middle set in a 5-bet pot versus a pretty tight reg. We have an absolute rifle off with ace high versus another reg. We have an extremely upsetting hand history versus a very tight reg. And we're going to finish off today's video with that beautiful BBJ win. So in the first hand today, we have got pocket jacks in the big blind and we are 150 big blinds deep with the cutoff. They open to 2.2x. We get a 7x 3-bet on the button from a reg and we naturally go ahead and cold 4-bet the big blind. Interestingly, we do get 5-bet to $350. So my reads on the cutoff are that they are a very successful reg. They have done well for years, particularly early on in my career, they were already playing high stakes. I think more in recent times, they're definitely on the nittier side and maybe a little bit more of a kind of a value heavy player, but that doesn't take away from the fact that they are successful and hypothetically, they should probably be capable as well. When they do 5-bet me here, I'm already very unhappy, not only because I would be unhappy here with jacks versus pretty much any player, but particularly versus this player type, I wouldn't be that thrilled either. Regardless of all of that, I definitely just have appeal. It's basically a min 5-bet, so I'm just never going to fold, particularly when we have another 110 big blinds behind. We see the most insane flop of all time, Queen Jack 5 Rainbow. I think there may be some argument to play some leads here, but I do think the cutoff is still going to have queens. I don't think they're ever going to have jacks. They are going to have aces and kings. We're going to have some of those sometimes too. Obviously, they're going to be somewhat discounted. And then we're going to have some ace king as well as them. So there may be some arguments to lead, but I think overall, checking probably just makes the most sense. So I do go ahead and do that, and we do see a small bet from in position. I definitely think that check raising the flop here is probably mostly the standard play. And I do think versus this exact player type that they are going to be extremely value heavy. In fact, they are just everyone's going to be very value heavy in this spot. So I think you can't go too far wrong with check raising. Maybe you want to call queens and then you want to check raise with this combo. We see an 8 of spades on the turn, and now I do think leading is definitely an option. I decide to check, but in hindsight, I would have much preferred to see myself donk the turn. I'm expecting to see an insane number of checkbacks here from imposition. But actually, when I do see them bet this size on the turn, I'm not gonna lie, and maybe this is monsters under the bed yet again, but particularly this player and this player profile, I just do not think that they're going to bet aces and kings on the turn here, because this board smashes my calling of the 5-bet range and my check call range on the flop. Genuinely, if I have pocket kings on the turn here, it's probably versus this player going to be a very, very strong consideration to fold. So I'm already a little bit wary that when they bet this sizing on the turn and don't shove and also don't check, that this may well just be queens most of the time. Either way, I don't think there's any other option here but to jam. I don't think calling makes a great deal of sense, giving them an opportunity to check back a hand like pocket aces on the river if on the rare occasion they do have it. So we do jam and we do get snap called for the 300 big blind pot, and not overly surprisingly do we see pocket queens, but obviously in this situation what are we going to do? We are going to stack off no matter what. And we do brick out both runouts, and nice hand to them. And today we are in the cutoff with ace-3 of diamonds, and we open. We get 3-bet by a regular in the small blind. Don't actually have that many reams on this regular, even though I have played with them a decent amount. They just seem like a fairly standard, fairly solid reg for the most part. We defend and we see 10-7-4 with a flush draw, and we have a backdoor flush draw. Versus a big bet here, which is the sizing that I'm expecting to see, around half pot or 2/3 pot, I am just going to fold the flop. But when they check to us, I think that we have an option here between betting and checking. I just want to preface something as well. I haven't actually got any of my Pyro Sims. My Pyro Solver is just completely GG'd in transit, apparently. So I don't actually know what the correct strategy is here. I decided to bet my hand some of the time, but not always. Generally speaking, you kind of see this trend of checking back your backdoor nut flush draws because you kind of want to realize and not bet fold. This might not be one of those times, and I didn't think it was one of those times pure. So I did decide just to mix in some check and then some bet as well. We see a 5 of clubs giving us a very disguised double gut shot on the turn. Our 6 is kind of cooked, but also we're never really going to be folding with our over and our 8 outs to a straight draw as well. Admittedly, again, not only is the 6 sometimes dirty, but also hearts are as well. We see a very good range hitting card for us in the 8 of spades, and villain chooses to check to us. So when they pot the turn, I think that they're going to have a whole host of flush draws. They're going to have lots of 10x, ace 10, and then they can have plenty of overpairs that they were looking to check raise the flop with, or like check call the flop with, like with aces, for example, or something like that. When we do see this river and we do see the check over to us, I think we just have a very, very mandatory bluff. We've got loads of other intuitive give ups, maybe some of our heart combos, although I do think some of our flush draw combos are still going to be forced into bluffing here, given the nature of the high EV river card, and also the fact that we just don't really have that many hands that call pot on the turn and then arrive in this node here. So pretty much we're going to be having to bluff a decent chunk of our range, given that it's already quite narrow, and this hand particularly falls perfectly into that range, blocking aces and also unblocking some of those flush draws that they're going to check fold. Fortunately, this time we do get the long tank and fold. And in our next hand, we have got pocket fours on the button and we open it up. We get defended out the big blind and we see 7-5-5 rainbow. The purple tag is reserved for those players that I think that they are a reg, but I'm not 100% sure yet, so I'm kind of keeping an eye on them and making notes on them and that kind of thing. The only read I have on this player is that they are on the unbelievable tight side. Like very, very, very reluctant to put money in the pot without very, very good hands, not really inclined to bluff, and also love to fold as well. So all things considered, just a relatively kind of tight player overall. 7-5-5 rainbow, and we have a probable mix between bet and check. Don't feel that greatly either way. Versus a very tight player, I think I just want to go ahead and c-bet this one always, because we are going to deny it versus hands. We're going to get under check raised, etc, etc. This is not one of those occasions where we get under check raised. We do get check raised always, and we have a very, very mandatory call on the flop. Although I would say double blocking the bluffs here, the 4-6 suited, is not ideal, but I'm just never going to fold pocket fours here on this board, particularly when they can have deuces and threes as well. We see an incredible 4 of clubs on the turn, bringing in flush draw, completing the straight, and also giving us a full house. Now, I think ordinarily there will be some big sizes here and some small sizes here. I would expect this player to use a big sizing on the turn with a lot of their range. Interestingly, they do go the small size, which probably is going to be the optimal sizing. Versus a player that I believe to be quite kind of nut heavy, or in this case, maybe like plenty of 5x and maybe even some 8-6 and stuff like that, I want to raise my hand always. The other thing is that my natural raise sizing here, when the board is quite symmetrical in the nut region, is going to be small, not big. However, versus a player that we have already like distinguished as kind of on the tight side and on the straightforward side, I just decided to go for like a pure exploit raise size, which is going to be very, very big, because I think their calling range is pretty much just inelastic here to very good hands. And I want to kind of like max my hand on the turn. So I do make it 293, which at the time was 132% pot. But as I said, I do think 70% pot is just going to be the normal sizing. Again, similar to the other hands, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but this is just kind of what I was thinking intuitively. If you do have any thoughts on the hand, the sizing, the exploit, definitely do let me know in the comments below. So we see a 2 of clubs, which completes the flush, which is pretty good for us. I think it's very, very conceivable that OOP can have some 7x of clubs and that kind of thing. We have around a pot size bet, and I'm only going to be shoving my combo. On this occasion, we do get turbo snapped again. We were drawing dead on the flop, and they did flop a full house. So onto the hand that you've been waiting for, where we hit the BBJ. So we have ace king off in the small blind, and we open to 3x. Now the big blind is a brand new player, but they are on multiple tables, and they are short stacking on all of those tables. They're also from Scandinavia. My assumption when I see a player like this is that they're going to usually be some kind of reg, but I'm not sure exactly what kind of player they were. We see ace king 8 monotone. I think betting and checking both are fine here. On this occasion, I do decide to check. They go ahead and bet half pot on the flop. I don't think check raising makes a lot of sense. I definitely just want to call and continue to see what they're going to do in position on the turn. We turn the nut boat on the ace of hearts. Obviously now we're checking, and if we do see any bets, we are always just going to call. And honestly, at this point, I was already thinking that maybe the BBJ was incoming here. There is always that little bit of worry that if you shove in a situation like this and you're, let's say, like a lot deeper, that a new recreational might not realize that a BBJ is there, and then they may end up folding their hand. That said, in this exact situation, this is never, ever, ever a spot that any player is going to fold ace 10, even a recreational. So I feel pretty comfortable jamming my hand with no worry that they're ever going to fold that BBJ equity. So I do decide to shove the river, and we do get very quickly snap called. And this time, very fortunately, we have run into the ace 10 offsuit for the second place in the BBJ for $17,490. So that's going to do it for the hand and the video today, guys. Thanks again for watching, and I really hope that the quality was a lot better this episode than the previous episode, but do let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, next week is going to be that live vlog playing at the Victoria Casino, so definitely look out for that one. But until next time, take care, and I'll see you at the tables.